Hey, welcome to my podcast. I'm Manina, and you are listening to an episode of Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast. Hey, Inspirers, welcome back to the Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger podcast. Today, I have a special guest. Chris McBride. He's an author, a podcaster, and an entrepreneur. And Chris, thank you for joining me on my podcast. I'm happy that you're here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I always ask my guests to tell us a little bit about them or tell us how they got here. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got to the place that you are in now.
All right. Well, where I'm at now, currently, I help millennial men to mend damaged relationships with their fathers and to one, identify their counterproductive emotional and sexual triggers, and two, be able to redirect those triggers in that energy in ways that particularly serve them. How I got to this particular state that I'm in right now, to make a long story very short, I didn't really know my father like that growing up. I mean, I knew him, but I would only see him like once or twice a year. So that led to a lot of different emotional issues. And every time I seen him, he would be with a different woman. So I just had this idea of what a man was, different women, flashy, and that mixed with being molested by an older woman when I was younger kind of had me at a very hypersexual drive. So of course, what a hypersexual drive can do, it caused a lot of different damage, to relationships, to myself. A lot of burned bridges just following, my little head as opposed to my big one, metaphorically speaking. But yeah, and then just fixing all of that, and striving to fix all that. And just, one thing my mother always stressed when I was younger was, be a man of integrity. And so, of course, you can't really be out here self destructing and then be a man of integrity. So that would always just ring in my mind. So, of course, in order to walk in full integrity, or I heard someone say, honor the integrity of who you really are. And so for me to live that, I had to just address a lot of the things that was holding me down. And that was, mending the relationship with my father. That was, my emotional energy just being out the roof. I could get angry like a light switch, just 0 to 100 really quickly. And then, of course, my sexual drives, where I was just getting my numbers up or my body count up. So that's how I really got to where I am today, was just overcoming the things that I'm trying to help people overcome.
Right. And you know what? That speaks to the women who I speak to, and I'm going to put myself in that number. That speaks to all of us because we've definitely encountered that man, or that type of man in our life. For sure. I have a women's group who've definitely been there for sure. So I can say that it's important for us to have a conversation. It's important for a woman like me and a man like you to have a conversation because there were things that I had to overcome in order to not continue to come into contact with the old, the old. Well, I don't know what you call them, but the old Chris, or the Chris before you realized, the man that you truly were created to be. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
I had to do a lot of work to realize the Menina, the Mo who I am created to be in order to avoid homeboy. you know.
yeah,
And it's so important for us to have conversations like this. I wanted to even just say you and one I had a guest before RJD, the Imperfect Gentleman, and he was on, and you guys were having a conversation, and I put somebody that's really close to me, put her onto the conversation. She was like, "Wait, I I just stopped believing that men were like this. Like I didn't believe that men are this way anymore, or even out there. And it's so crazy because you look at some fathers and where they lead their daughters. into the trenches of, battle with the lack of control, and the lack of things that you have worked on, been diligent in gaining for yourself. And it's important for, like I said, for us to have this conversation because you're not only helping the millennial men, you're helping the millennial woman. She wants to be seen as righteous and noble and all of those things. But if a person doesn't recognize what nobility looks like and righteousness looks like, they'll never recognize the woman of noble character. I speak a
Yeah.
lot about a woman of noble character. So, man, thank you. Thank you for being obedient in how you redirected yourself and how you just, it was able to identify like something is wrong here and this is not working for me. What can I do to make this better? Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
So what are you doing? What's some tips or some ways that you could help or you use to help someone identify where they are versus where they want to be?
In what regard? You mean just in life general or like emotionally or?
Come across a millennial man and he's running his race, and what are some ways that you can help him recognize?
Really, it would just be specific to the person, but because there's many different ways in which you can come at a person on why they need to. We'll just tackle, sexual energy, why it's important to tackle it, but we'll just tackle sexual energy. And so, one of the main reasons why you don't want to just spread your seed or just continuously just bust nuts, and I don't even mean just having sex with people. That's just releasing. Period. So masturbation counts. And repressing your sexual urges doesn't work either because wet dreams count as well because that's still a release. So it's about really mastering how to channel that energy because you can't just deny it because it will resurface. So the importance of not just releasing all the time is every time for a man. I'm only speaking as right now to a man. Um, every time we bust a nut, the whole point of a nut and really what our semen is energy to replicate ourselves. So it actually pulls from every single organ within your body because again, it's trying to recreate you. So when the Bible talks about not spreading your seed because you'll get older and you'll, hate the fact that you did it, but you ignored ignorance, that's really what they're talking about when he's saying don't be just spreading your seed all the time because that's your life force. The whole purpose of that sexual drive is you wanting to recreate you. Genetic survival and reproduction are really the main purpose of life. And society, through, just media and these images, and they play upon our biological drives and they have just perversed our minds into just thinking that we're supposed to have sex for pleasure. And although sex is pleasureful, the purpose or intent of it is not the pleasure. The purpose is to recreate yourself. So every time you do that, that is why immediately you go to sleep or you get super tired after an orgasm. Again, speaking to a man, I know girls be up and y'all can go. So we here and the dude be like, hold up, because that energy, you get what I'm saying? So that's the main thing that I tell guys, and you don't really experience it or notice it that much when you're younger. But as you get older, if you spent your life depleting yourself, it catches up to you. And you don't want to be the one that, recognizes a disaster when you're in the midst of it. If somebody can tell you, look, based upon your actions and your habits, this is what's ahead for you. You should definitely take heed because I for sure would have listened if somebody would have really broke it down to me and explained everything. Then you go into like sperm count and all these other things like that that's constantly depleting. And if you really want to have kids later, but you constantly just wasted, most of your sperm when you was younger, then you'll find it challenging to reproduce when you get older and everything. So it's many different things. Then we can go into the STDs. Then we can just go into, the more importantly, the damaged relationships, just following your little head or your sexual urges. I mean, you could cause, rifts between you and close friends, you and family members. You can cause, rifts between other, people's families and all that, or other girl relationships and all that, just thinking, again, just being selfish and really just thinking about the moment, and you're not really thinking about how this is going to affect that person, or how's it going to affect other people that I might care about or connected to. And it's like when you get that holistic view, it's a lot of responsibility, but nonetheless, it does put you in a position to make better choices. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that as a woman, because it's true, it's a different experience. I can't say it's true. I think it's a different experience as a woman. I know my experience as a woman, but um, I know as a woman, because the nature of us from our creator, we were not created to guide you guys around, but we were asked to trust you, and the important thing, the importance of being able to trust a man, is to know that he can control himself, and to know that he has, not only that he can control himself, but he has a desire to control himself. There's things that are expected of a woman, um, and sometimes we don't get that space of error, like men do. We don't. I feel like men get a huge space of error, time for error. All your 20s, you're just playing around. You get it right when you're in your 30s and things like that. Women don't really get that. You do that in your
Well, I think the level of value is different as well. It's like the seed, what I can give is pales in comparison to the gift that a woman bears. Women are internal beings, so a guy, we have to penetrate you all, as opposed to us. It's not as many implications that comes with the receiving of energy, and then that womb that y'all have that can create life and grow life and sustain life and multiply. It's like an incubator, so it's like just a different level of value, so that's why sometimes I tell women, yes, you are equal, but that doesn't mean identical. And sometimes, y'all want identical, and we're different vessels.
no, yeah,
It's like y'all just have just a greater value.
for sure.
Y'all the only ones that can give life, that can bear life. Guys, we could just spread seed, but that's literally all I can do. Magic happens inside y'all.
But here's why it makes y'all equally as important to carry your temples the same way a woman would, because uh, the woman's temple is in danger if your body is not healthy. And all of
Facts.
the things that she can do, the magic decreases. It's not magic anymore. It's stress. It's disease. Dis-ease, disease. It is there's so many children now that are having on a spectrum. That's not, I'm not saying that's because of a man, but it has to do with uh a lot more than just shots. you know it has to do with the reproduction when it's happening. We all plays a part, so you guys are
Facts.
equally as important to take care of yourself and to have the to redirect yourself to something that is productive.
Yep. It's interesting because a woman is actually born with all the ovate cells she will ever have. So, all the kids that you will ever have, like, are currently present, in you right now in the form of a cell, and your emotional state affects your cells. So, a lot of times kids can come out predisposed, to anxiety or to all these other different emotions because, the mother was marinating in, you know, that particular emotion while she was conceiving, or even again before, because the cells are always in you. So it goes even beyond, looking out for a woman while she's pregnant with your seed. It's really the entire time she's in your space, because kids can be affected, while they're just cells before me as the male, before my seed can even reach it. It can be affected based upon the emotional state that I continue to put this woman through, or that I, just allow her to go through in my space. So as a man, I pride, with me and my woman, our relationship, I really put her emotional state on my back. I'm not just going to let, you know, her deal with whatever she's dealing with. I really make it a priority in my life. I pretty much stop everything that I'm doing to, help her resolve that particular thing. So, because again, I understand that although, she may not be pregnant now, but how her emotional state will affect whatever we do reproduce going forward. So it starts, again, as soon as you come in contact with a woman, way before, she can even conceive, if you're serious about being with that woman.
And if we're going to think about bigger picture, right? Because you're talking about millennials, and you're talking about a whole broad range of people, right? If we're going to be 100% about it, even if that woman doesn't end up being for you, your wife, all of those things, it's good to treat each other well so that they can move on to wherever they are supposed to be or wherever they're going to end up. And the child that's produced out of that is a viable person who's going to be a part of our society. Is really
Facts.
a bigger picture to all of it. If we, technically thinking, it's so important. It is so important. I really think what you're doing is super important. So many people just are not intentional, just not intentional, and it doesn't have to do only with relationships or anything. Just with yourself, being intentional with yourself, who you want to be, where you want to end up. That is such a great, like, a lot of people say, oh, we don't get any instruction manual to life, or you have a kid, you don't have an instruction manual to raising kids. Of course not, but you figure it out because you know what you want, how you want it to end. You want your kid to be healthy, you want your kid to be happy, you want your kid to be successful, you want them to understand who they are and whose they are. So if you have that end goal in mind, you know that there's ways to get to that place, and we have to do that for ourselves. It's so important to be intentional for ourselves. And so I wanted to go back to identifying, right? So you said you identified your old habits and realized, all right, we're not doing this here, right? As a woman, I started Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger, and I always talk about this on my episodes on my podcast, but it's important. Somebody might not have seen number one; they're gonna see this one. So Aspire Big, Inspire Big was started because I wanted to understand who I was as a woman. I wanted to understand who God created me to be as a woman here on earth, right? And what that meant to God. I was a young girl who was born in a family. My mother and my father were married. I didn't have, that separation thing, but my mother got sick, and she was super sick, and she passed away when I was 12 from breast cancer. And now, a 12-year-old little girl, we think about that time in her life, right? That's that's where you need the mom. That's where she's really like, we gonna really need this woman in this girl's life. And so, though my father raised me, and he raised me very well, he's from a totally different culture. He's from Africa, and he's from a 100% Muslim country. In the way that they teach women to treat themselves and understand themselves, and the way that people should be before they come into their space in general, was very helpful to me. Right, it helped me to understand boundaries. It helped me to understand how to control myself, and how to say everything. Every experience doesn't have to be a part of something I do. You know, Everything is not for me. But womanhood, you can do that. Being a woman day in and day out, he couldn't do that. And so I had to understand who I was and what I wanted for myself. And I came to that turning point because in 2011 I got pregnant with twins, and I was with someone who was living all of his life the best way he wanted, but not the best way. And I got to 5 months pregnant with my twins, and my body went into labor. And so I got to the hospital, and I'm calling this person all of the night. I was in labor for 8 hours, and he did not show up. And finally, I got in contact with him in the morning. He said, I'm not coming because I just can't deal with that stuff like that. I can't deal with stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went through the whole experience, very traumatic, very hurtful. And I had to come home with no children and say to myself, you're literally empty. You know, your belly's empty. These children were a different type of promise to me. Though I was out of wedlock. It wasn't something that I wanted. It was never my objective to have children out of wedlock or anything. So I had to say to myself, who are you? What are you looking for out of life? And what are you expecting? And what were you expecting to give to those two children that you would have loved with beyond loving anyone in this world? What were you expecting to teach them and show them? You know, what lifestyle were you really going to hand to them? And I really had to understand that I wasn't there. I wasn't the right person for that at that time. And I know so many people have children in the most terrible situations, but that's not what God had for me, right? And those two children. So I was able to create Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger. And so I said, I'm going to make a YouTube video about losing my children, because I was also looking around and speaking to my friends, and they were pretty much just like, I don't know what to tell you. I've never been there before, friend, you know, or like, oh, you young, you know, I was 26 at the time. Oh, you're young, you can have kids again. That did not feel good. You know, if ever you know a woman who lost a child, please don't ever tell her you can have more kids. That's her child that she lost and she was holding, and she made a relationship with that child. So that did not feel good. Or, he was no good for you. So, God was saving them kids. Like, he could have took him. I'm just telling you, God. God, if you wanted to take somebody, you could have took him. I'm just saying. But, things like that. So I made my video. And even until this day, I made a video saying I lost my babies at 18 weeks and 6 days, because I wanted to build a community of women who are there, who are empty, and they know that they don't want to be there. Are women who are intentional, who want to be intentional about the life that they are going to live forward. And until this day, I'm able to. I get messages from young ladies like, "I just lost my baby. I'm so glad that you made this video. Don't feel alone," and it helps me cope with just healing. And how are you doing? They'll ask me, do you have kids yet? And I don't, but I'm able to tell them, like, I healed, I worked through it, and what I got out of it is how to be a woman, what womanhood is, what God created me to be. So that is so important. That is so important. Aspire Big, Inspire Bigger was created on that foundation. So I share that because you have a book called Healing in Hindsight.
Yeah.
And the foundation of that was built on you identifying and redirecting. So talk to us about Healing in Hindsight and, the journey that brought you to it, or brings you through it.
So really, healing in hindsight is just about unpacking all the different traumatic experience that I had been through uh, throughout just my entire life. I mean, from just being bullied as a kid, the trauma that kind of plays on your self-esteem and your self-worth, to the abandonment things, as I spoke to earlier, about my father, to the whole, again, molestation thing that, interestingly enough, from the time that it happened, which was when I was like 10, to when I actually realized that something was wrong. It wasn't until I was like 18 years old. I literally didn't even think that it was bad. I got exposed to Antoine Fisher. I was in advanced placement psychology, and the teacher just had us watching that movie. And for some reason, they just brought up all these things, and I just started having like a moment in class. And the teacher pulled me outside and was like, "You all right, bro?" Uh, and shoot, that's when I first started even to realize that an older woman touching a young kid or a young boy, because we think as far as male, again, it's different for women, but as far as a man, when we say molestation and we're referring to like a man being molested, it's usually like a dude on dude, you know. So I wasn't thinking, you know, being molested, you know, because she's, you know, way older than me and all that and got me doing all of these different things to her and all that. I'm not thinking that at all. So it's like when that realization hit, I was like, but again, yeah, so just addressing it all. A lot of times we try to repress things, a lot of times we try to escape. And that's really what the first little part of the book is about, is just talking about the results of me escaping the healing, you know, and how that led to just a life of self destruction. I mean, from just being completely reckless and, you know, catching some felonies and everything. And, um, you know, to again, I spoke about the, you know, hypersexual activity, to just all the burnt relationships, to, you know, yeah, to just me and my father, you know, I'm looking at other people's relationships and I'm kind of envious, like, damn, I wish, you know, I could just be dealing with something and just call my dad. Like you know, we didn't have that relationship. Now we do, but before, you know, prior to the, you know, the last 3 or 4 years ago, you know, my whole life, it was never that. My dad would never be top of mind if I thought, you know, really, if anything, if I was celebrating, if I was hurt, if I was anything, he wouldn't be top of mind to call. So yeah, and then just finally just addressing it all and just first off writing everything out. That's why I talk so much about Jordan Peterson and the self-authoring program. It's very cheap, but the power that it actually has is phenomenal, man. But you got to be ready for it. I do suggest that, you know, a lot of people smoke weed and they don't think it really has an effect, but it does have an effect when it comes to you emotionally. So if you are going to engage on a journey of healing, for one, I say go through a period of sobriety. We don't realize how much, you know, just simply smoking a blunt can just uh, pacifies, what they call it in psychology, your emotional state. And the thing is that you want to use that emotion to, again, to be able to redirect or to channel it in another direction. And if you're constantly sedating yourself with food, you know, with sex, with weed, with whatever it is, you're never going to be able to redirect or to rechannel. So I would just say go through a period of just kind of self control, withdrawing from all of that different things and letting your spirit really just be how it is. Now, again, that's why most of us engage in those activities, because we don't like how our spirit can be unresting and all that, but you just got to deal with it and it's going to run its course. And, you know, once it runs its course and you're able to just address the different things that you've been escaping mentally, and he explains it very well. But they have this phenomenon where they took the most depressing cases, and this were people that were on, you know, medication for like 30 years because they were so depressed, the highest level, the highest dosage actually possible. And what they did was they did two different experiments on them. Phenomenal. One of them, they just put this little device in their mouth that forced them to like grin like this, like a super grin though, not just like a smile, but like a, and they just had it in their mouth for 20 minutes and they did it every single day. Within 3 months, 90% of them didn't need medication at all anymore. Their depression literally went away just from the endorphins and the serotonin that gets released when you just hold your face. Like, it seems weird, but again, it works. You know, that's why just people who tend to smile all the time, you know, tend to be happy. It's almost like, what was the quote? Sing, do I sing because I'm happy, or I'm happy because I sing? Or the chicken or the egg. So you can just smile and then get yourself into an emotion. Or the power poses that they talk about, you know, anything that will reshift the chemical balance and everything in you. Another thing, and most importantly, what they did was just had you write about your most traumatic experiences for 15 minutes every single day. I mean, the things that really take you there emotionally. And what's interesting is in the short term, because you are finally addressing everything that you've been suppressing, you're overwhelmed with emotion. So it's going to be a period where emotionally you have a decline. But once you get through that decline, it's like the upward tick on that thing, and the sustainability of that upward tick, it's like really all the emotional baggage just goes. So the brain is really just trying to, when you rethink about a memory and it still causes that emotion, it's because your brain hasn't made connections on why did that thing actually happen? how to avoid it happening in the future. What does that mean particularly about you in your future and you as a person? What does that mean about other people and how you interact with them and how you can behave with them? That ties into, again, how you can avoid this happening again. Once the brain can really make that connection clear in its mind, the emotion goes away and you can rethink about a memory and all that, and it doesn't cause any type of pain. But if we continuously try to sedate it or escape it, instead of just addressing it. And again, it got to be a consistent. That's why it's just a short 15 minutes a day, just writing, about what happened, and then put that thing down. And again, this is why the sobriety is important, because you can't escape it. You want to process all these emotions. It's like letting a little teapot on a kettle thing and open and letting the steam out. But you've got to go through a period of just complete sobriety. So, don't be doing anything that's going to sedate you or pacify you or relax you. So, try not to have sex. Try not to overindulge in sweets and foods and all that stuff. Try not to smoke or drink just to unwind or have a glass of wine. Deal with the emotions. And then once you get in it, it's just like a 90-day period. But within 90 days, I'm trying to tell you, you could be on a completely different level. But again, you got to be willing to just go through that.
Right. Why do you think people are so afraid of that? That going through the emotional wave.
It's the fear of the unknown. The whole thing about our paradigm or our subconscious mind is it wants to keep us safe. You feel me? So anything new is going to resist because it deals in familiarity, because our subconscious mind is anything we don't have to think about. So when it goes into, this is why I like dieting is so hard, or when somebody wants to go vegan or vegetarian or whatever it is, or just cut out sweets, because if you knew in your mind everything that you could eat that was in your diet plan that tasted just like everything that you know how to eat right now, switching over would be easy. But it's the we don't know, and having to learn all that and all this, it's just, so people just be like, you know what? It's almost like with Pavlo and the dogs and all that stuff like that. I don't even know if Pavlo did this with dogs. I know he did it with salivating, but with learned helplessness. So they put these dogs on like this, like electrocuting floor, and they put big tents up or big fences up so the dogs couldn't jump out. And they was tasing the floor, and so the dogs was like jumping, trying to get crazy and all that. The first day, first week, they still doing it. But after a few weeks, it's like the dogs just stopped jumping. So they was like, all right, so maybe they stopped jumping because the fences are so high. So they took the fences down a little bit, and they started shocking the dogs, and the dogs still laid there. Then they was like, all right, let's take the fence down to the point where he could easily jump over it. They shocked him, and the dog still lay there. Then they took it, to just knocked the fence completely over, and the dog still just laid there during the shocking. And what they realized is just learn helplessness. It's the same thing with like a big elephant that's in the ground with a little stake. It's because if you can get it early, once the belief is in there, you ain't got to do nothing. It's the same thing they did to us in slavery. You get what I'm saying? They get your mind. I don't got to worry about your body. If I know what your mind is going to do, I don't have to worry about the body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was just thinking about the elephant when in the circus, how they train them. And then sometimes they don't even have to hold them on a little stake anymore. They just don't move. They do not run away. Yeah, I think it is so funny in meaning in an odd way that it's so odd to some people that I haven't been like since 2011. I just went on ahead and just did my healing, right? Just work on my healing every day, right? And they're like, so, you dating anybody? Like, no, I'm not. In 2000, since 2011, I have dated, but not, they haven't gone too far. But it's because I know what I deserve now, and I don't think as a society, there's a lot of people aren't held up to a standard when it comes to dating, right? So now,
Let me ask you a question.
uh-huh,
I'm curious, and just let me know if any of this resonates as truth for you. Do you find any part of you that is holding the new people that you come across to, I would say, a standard that you wishing you would have held the past person that caused the damage to?
yes and never at the same time, right? Um, So yes, I wish I would have had standards. Okay, that's one. But do I hold them to a standard that I wish I would have held the past to? That's like saying making them pay for what the person in the past did. No, I just hold them to the standard that God holds me to,
Mm.
and I'm okay with that. And a lot of people aren't doing the work that you just spoke about, right? The healing.
What's your standard, if you don't mind me asking?
Do the work. Know yourself.
Yeah,
Understand where you want to go. You don't have to be there. Understand where you want to go. Understand that.
those aren't bad standards either.
Come on, now that's not hard. Think that's hard. And as a and I'm gonna say as a woman who I don't come from, like, I was born here in Harlem and I lived here, but I was raised in my father's culture. We don't come from a culture where we get to talk about a lot of things in the present. We talk about the past. My father's a great storyteller. He's gonna tell me everything about my tribe. I know their name. I know what they did. I know, what they're special for. I know what the women are like. I know what the men are like, and I haven't even been there, you know. But a present, every day, day to day, no. So there's work that I have to do. I have to follow. I have to work on it intentionally, healing intentionally, and understanding me intentionally. So if I can put forth that effort, everybody can. That's the way I see it. And who can't, that's okay too. But that doesn't mean they for me. I don't have to accept that in my realm. So that's
No, that's actually wise that you don't accept that in your realm, because if you're trying to heal and someone is actively, opposing healing, then
right.
that's just all that. So I'm interested. Have you heard of attachment styles?
No. Tell me about it.
So it's like three different attachment styles, and of course, it's basically talking about how we bond, and how we bond or our attachment styles is really related to how we engage with our parents growing up and our level of affection, right? So this is it's three different attachment styles. You have the secure, you have the anxious, and you have the avoidant. So a secure attachment style is someone that is comfortable with intimacy, so they're not afraid of it, they're not running away from it or whatever, and they're also cool with being alone. So if somebody wants to leave them, then they're perfectly fine. They don't think anything bad about themselves because this person doesn't want to be associated with them no more, doesn't want to be with them no more. They're not blowing a person up and all the other stuff like that. They're just, if it comes it comes, if it goes it goes. I'm secure within myself regardless outside of this relationship. Then you have the anxious attachment style. The anxious one is the one that is constantly in relationships. So these people are never solo. They're never by themselves. They break up and then immediately they're talking to someone else or in another relationship. But these also people typically have a very deep fear of abandonment. So they end up doing things to self sabotage the relationship, like either getting clingy or stuff of that nature. Because again, you're constantly worried that this person's going to break up with you. So most of the time, you end up doing something that causes the person to do something that you were fearing. It's like Job in the Bible when he was like, "Oh Lord, the thing that I fear the most has come upon me." And then you have the avoidance style. And the avoidance style is the ones, that feel like they can't rely on people at all. So, they value their independence over relationships. You can always spot an avoidant by asking them if they need help. And, then you can, with your own eyes, witness that they desperately need help, but they're just going to tell you no. Because again, it's not that they don't want your help, it's because they've just learned to, every time they relied on humans throughout their life, they were constantly let down. So they just feel that if they tell you yes, you're just going to let them down, even if you're not. So you just got to help an avoidant person. You can't ask them if they need help. You just have to just jump in and do the work. They will not stop you. But if you ask them, they will definitely tell you no. And so how we get these styles, the secure one, you get that style growing up as when you really needed love and affection, your parents were there and they were in tune with you. So not overindulging, not enmeshing you, anything like that, but just when you really, really needed it, they were there to esteem you. So you grow up, feeling very secure within yourself. And when you get stressful, most of the time you just go back to your home. You're not running to like a man or a woman or anything like that. You're running to, your home to fill you back up. Then you got the anxious ones, and these people tend to grow up being people pleaser because their parents were like hot and cold. So sometimes, your parents will give you love and affection, and other times they could be withdrawn and distant. So it's like you never really knew what to do in order to get love and affection or to make that person happy. So you grow up downing yourself, wondering if you're good enough. Person doesn't answer the phone, you thinking, oh my god, they don't like me, they don't want to talk to me, all these different thoughts, because again, how your parents wasn't necessarily in tune with you emotionally growing up. Sometimes they was there, other times they wasn't. And then the avoidant ones, just flat out, you just learn to not be able to rely on your parents at all. It's like every time you needed your parents, they just wasn't there. So you just grow up. I don't even want to deal with intimacy. You can also spot an avoidant person because they ghost people. These are the ones that when the emotion get too, they're just gone because they not dealing with that. All right. So which one would you feel that you identify the most with?
Now at this time, I'm like, I was gonna ask you, but I'm just gonna answer the question and I'm gonna ask you after because I'm gonna ask her. I feel like I'm secure at this point in my life, but is it possible to be one of the three at a different point in your life?
Definitely. You can definitely shift. Typically, a deep emotional experience will cause you to shift immediately, or long sustained periods in a healthy relationship environment where you're not constantly triggered can cause you to shift, or just periods of isolation, or not isolation, but just being single, where you're actually doing the work and focused on being whole over a sustained period of time. Because the key is just not to be triggered. So the anxious and the avoidant can be triggered. And if they're with someone who doesn't recognize and treat them accordingly, it'll just ruin them. And the same thing for a secure person. A secure person, if you were dating a person, you put your all into them, and you were secure, and then they just do something completely bogus, that can cause you to either be avoidant or to be anxious. So it's about really protecting your environment. So if you're an anxious person, for a period of time you're going to need reassurance, and you're going to know that you're going to need reassurance without a person making you feel bad for needing it, because it's only for a period of time that you're going to constantly like, are you sure I'm good enough? And then once you can feel secure in that, then you won't need to reassure anymore. But if you're with somebody that's just like, again, not in tune with you, not doesn't know your attachment style, doesn't know how to deal with you, they'll make you feel bad for it, and then that's what's just going to cause rifts. Same things with avoidant. An avoidant person, typically can be with an anxious person, because an anxious person wants intimacy, an avoidant person is trying to get away from it. So it's pull and pull. So with an anxious person, you just got to be able to give them their space. So it's like when it gets too emotional, they're going to want to dip out for a little second. But if you do not blow them up, if you just give them, literally just give them time, they will come back to you. It never fails. It just all right. He just need a day. He just need 2 days. Just don't blow them. Just don't blow. If you're dealing with an avoidant,
Right.
and you can slowly get them to be secure. So it's just about knowing the types, and then staying in environments in which you're not triggered and everything, and you could for sure switch.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not too high of a standard to prefer secure another secure person.
It's not, but it may be challenging,
Yeah.
to find.
Yeah. No, it's challenging fun. That's what I'm saying.
Especially the older you get. When you're
Yes.
younger, many of us are secure, but as we get older and we have more experiences with people, and then we stay single, so that means we've had, failed relationships,
Mhm.
it it causes, it to be a little bit more challenging as you get older to just come across secure people, because people have their issues or whatever. And even though you might be healed in one area, when you get with another person, it quickly reveals the areas that you're not healed in. And so I've just learned to, try to accept people where they are, and just be transparent about where I am, and be like, yo, can we rock or can we not rock? And I'm like transparent from the beginning. So sometimes it can scare people off. But with me and my girl now, we've been together a little bit over a year. And it's like in the beginning, I was like just very blunt. Like, look, I'm talking to other people. I have options. This is, you know, this is my circumstance right now.
Mhm.
And I think once people can get in the habit of just doing that and just being transparent and just being honest about where you are, it can eliminate a lot of just BS, that causes that pain that makes you not want to get into another relationship or not trust people and just being honest, and just, just treating someone how they want to be treated mixed with how you want to be treated. So if you wouldn't want some, lying and cheating and, just arguing and just constantly just you feeling like you can't express yourself, and then don't be that for someone else. But then also on the flip side, really tune into how this person is, what they're trying to express and what they're really dealing with, and then just
Yeah.
try to move in harmony.
An important thing to also think of that just popped in my mind because I was definitely that person. I was a good kid. I was a good girl, and I was in the house. I didn't, I like I said, I listened to my dad. There's a certain different culture than it is from here in America, and so I was in the house, right? And I thought that because I was good, people would be good to me. So you also have to understand that though you know you're good and you know the things that you wouldn't do, doesn't mean other people aren't those things. And you have to know who to link with and who not to link with. And it's okay to not link with somebody if they
Thanks.
don't see life the same in certain areas, like in the most important areas of your life, the fundamental areas of your life, which you have to figure out what they are. You need to match there. Other things, it's like this hand, other things, might not. We might come together, we might not. But these fundamentals right here, got to touch. They have to touch.
Do you know your love languages?
They have changed. I think I did it, but I did it for singles. The last love language I did. It is acts of service.
You
That's
know your top three?
I don't know all top three, but I know acts of service was the top one.
So you like when people would just do certain tasks and all that stuff for you?
Yeah, hook me up, help me out, man. Don't tell me you're gonna do it. Let me know that you thought of me when I was not in your presence. That's the best. It doesn't matter who
Let me
friends, family, whatever it is. Like, oh, check your mail. I sent you something. Like, oh, that makes me feel like I love you. That's top for me.
have you took the DISC assessment?
I did. I did.
What was your letters?
Uh, for D, I'm 53. S and C, I'm 99. I'm a little lower than all of that on the eyes. Did you take?
But the yeah, so and I'm certified. So
Oh,
the S and C 99. Wow, okay. Yeah, so I am 69D and a 69C. So my D and my C are the same. Then everything else is lower. My S was the lowest one. My S is very, very low. And
and
my I was low as well. It's like a 40 or something.
Javon was on here. She talked about her doing disc assessments like that she doesn't. But for people who don't know what disc assessment, can you tell them what each letter means so that they know what we're saying?
Yeah, so like the each letter basically talks about a preference towards a certain behavior. So the D, it's the D, the I, the S, and the C. The D represents your decision making when it comes towards problems, and more particularly and specifically newer problems. So this isn't like, old problems that you're used to. This talks about your preference and behavior when it talks about new challenges. When new challenges present themselves in your life, do you move towards it, or are you one that want to stray away from it? If you want to stray away from it, you'll be a lower D. If you want to jump into it and you love that joint, you'll be a higher D. The I talks about your preferences when it comes to interacting with people. So again, the higher the I, the more like outgoing, persuasive, gregarious, and everything you are. The lower the I, the more closed off. The higher the I, the more trusting. The lower the I, the more guarded in everything that you are. I's are very people oriented as well. Going back to the D's are very task oriented. Then you got the S's. The S is for stabilization, and it talks about your pace. So it's like how you like to move in your environment. Are you someone that goes at a rhythmic pace? Are you somebody that can stop, start, stop, start, just constantly go at different paces, move at a fast pace? or are you someone that just typically likes to slow it down? The high S's are usually very supportive and very loyal as well. So they're very good at being like entrepreneurs working inside an organization with an established vision, because they're again extremely supportive, extremely loyal, extremely detail oriented, and that ties into your high C as well. And the C's goes into your preference on protocols, procedures, systems, following rules, basically. So the higher the C that you are, the more structured you are. The lower the C, the more like rebellious you are. Metaphorically speaking, a good way to get a concept of them is we talk about flight assessments. So a D would be more like a pilot. A pilot's job is to get the people in the aircraft from point A to point B. So they're the leaders of the actual groups. But when you also think about a pilot isn't with the actual people. So pilots don't really be talkative. They're focused on flying. So they're very task oriented people. They're not really friendly. They could come off as egocentric or rude or, abrupt or harsh or stern or all these other words, basically saying that they're not really tuning into your feelings because they're focused on more so results. Then you have the eyes as the flight attendants. So these are the people that's super, again, friendly, people oriented. They're caring about people's feelings and emotion and how things are coming off and how things are said and how things look and everything. The experience of the flight is what eyes focus on. But eyes can also suffer a little bit because they're so focused on the people. They could be get taken advantage of sometimes, and they can also be less productive because they're not focused on the task or results. So a lot of times they can have dope relationships, but money wise, they could suffer a little bit. Then you got the S's, which is like the grounds crew. So they're more so again support for the or for the pilot. So they're the grounds crews, the people that be outside with the little lights. They're also the people that are handling the luggage. So with them, everything has to be slowed down because they have to make sure everything is in order. They're focused on all the little details that the flight attendant, because they are people, and the pilot, because I'm just focused on flying, that we might miss. So they're focused on, again, supporting the vision. That's why they work good in other people's organization. The pilot got the vision of where they're going. The grounds crew is making sure you're going to get there, and everybody that's on the flight has what they need when they actually get there. The flight attendant is making sure that everybody is feeling good along the way. And then you got the air traffic control, which is the C's, and they are the people that's in the watchtower that's communicating with the pilot about things that's in the environment that the pilot can't see. So this is why high C's are like good accountants and everything, making sure that the IRS don't come get you. So you being a pilot and you out here flying and all that, you get a high C around, they'd be like, make sure you're following these rules, make sure you're staying within these systems so we can ensure that this plane stays in the air and all that stuff like that. So that's a good metaphor on how, the disassessment works and how the different personalities all play a role.
Right. I see. That was me, a S and a C right there. I work in accounting admin. So I'm a biller and a collector in the accounting office of a modeling agency. So here I am. And I can write a good as per my last email. That's a good lead trait. There we go. I said.
Facts. Facts. And a lot of times, man, it's good that you can embrace your S and your C, because so many people wants to be the D's or wants to be the I's. And it's like every role is necessary. Every role is needed. When if you just a D, if you ain't got an I, you're gonna have terrible relationships. So you definitely want to keep people that are different around you. If you ain't got a C, you're gonna miss them details. That's gonna mess you up later. If you ain't got that S, you're gonna miss something as well. You're gonna be moving too fast and you're gonna miss something along the way. And somebody ain't gonna have what they need because as a pilot, you're just moving too quick. So it's good to just recognize who you are, like they say, recognize your superpower, act in your superpower, and then just bring along everybody else. Build the Justice League. In the Justice League, it ain't just a group full of Batmans or a group full of Supermans. It's everybody got their own different power, and everybody use their power when the strength or everybody use their strength when the circumstance dictates. So it ain't just I'm the leader and I don't need nobody else. It's like, no, everybody needs everybody.
That's right. That's right. So when we talked about the low eyes, we're gonna do something. I do something on my podcast called the Introvert Corner. That is I. Okay. Introvert Corner was designed to make a place where fellow introverts could experience things that maybe other extroverts or not so introverted people have gone through or done or think like without doing the footwork themselves. Because sometimes we're just not going to do that. We're not getting on the roller coaster, and I'm okay with that. You know, so I'm just going to ask you 3 introspective questions, and you answer them as you may, and they are going to enlighten somebody, and they're going to inspire someone to think of something in a different way, and might catapult them into a different part of their life that they needed to be. Okay.
I'm with it.
All right. So you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So number 1. What's the last book you couldn't put down?
The last book I couldn't put down. It's interesting because I would probably say I got 2 of them. That's ringing in my mind. The Alchemist, although I've read it many times, but again, I just reread it, being my lady. It's a phenomenal read, and I definitely encourage anybody who is on a journey of just manifesting their desire or walking in purpose and really want to fulfill their purpose. I'm trying to tell you, it will give you so many jewels to just stay along your journey. And then the second book would be Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill. It's his first book. It came right before Think and Grow Rich, but it was the book that he wrote right after he finished the 30 years of just shadowing all of these ultra entrepreneurs and mega entrepreneurs. And of course, it's like 700 some pages, so it takes a little bit to get through. That's why he wrote Think and Grow Rich, which is only like maybe 200 pages or something. But if you can get that 700-page joint, it's so much gold in there. It's so much wisdom in there that literally can change your life. He really goes into detail. What Think and Grow Rich is about. He really goes into detail in the laws of success.
Okay. I like that. Success. That's the one where, like you said, he shadowed and he wrote everything about them in Laws of
Yep.
Success. Okay. And the Alchemist, man, and know that the first time you read it, for a lot of people, you're gonna be like, "What did I just read?" Just keep reading it. Read it over and over because it's so much to know. Like I think I read it about 3 times, but I'm just gonna keep reading. That's gonna be one of the books that's always in one of my, in rotation because it's so good.
Facts.
All right.
What's some of your favorite quotes from The Alchemist?
Oh,
Or your favorite? What's your top one?
I don't know, because I don't know if I retain information that way. So I don't know. You have a good memory too. I was also saying that to RDD when I heard you guys talking. You were talking about different quotes or saying different things, and I was like, men's brain are so different. Like there's just so much. You can keep that. I cannot. I'm thinking about like not catching the attitude in the next 5 minutes. So I don't know. What's one of yours? It's true. I feel like women's emotions and hormones is obvious. We're women, and so that's part of us. It does take the space of our memory. It really does. Women got a good memory, but most of us, we don't have memories like y'all. Y'all can be something to be like, yes, this was the most moving thing. I don't remember that. I just remember, you know what I remember the most? When he moved, when he went away and the girl was left behind. That's what I remember the most from that.
But the thing is, though, it's like the high S's, though, it makes sense because high S's are fillers. Mm-hmm. The high C in you is not a filler. The high C in you is more so an analyzer. But that high S in you is definitely a filler, and you have emotional connections to things for sure.
Right. So what was yours? What was one that for you?
The quotes that's in the book?
What's your top one?
It's a few of them in there. Whether when he had met the girl, he was halfway along his journey. He had met girl and they had fell in love. And he like, damn, I don't want to leave. And she was like, true love will never hold you back from fulfilling your purpose or fulfilling your journey. And so that was like a powerful one for me, where it's like love shouldn't stand in the way. of a person feeling their journey. And that's, vice versa, not even just, just a woman shouldn't stand in the way of a man. A man shouldn't stay in the way of a woman. If she's really adamant about this is like, I'm supposed to do this, and she's really following that intuition within her, love shouldn't be in the way of that. You feel me? Like love should, if it's real love, you know, if you got to go away, I'm gonna be here, but if I got to go with you, then we could figure that whole, if you really got to. So that was like a profound thing for me. Another one was, when you really want something, the universe will conspire to make it happen. Another one was, don't forget the power of the omens, because if you don't listen to your omens, they will stop appearing. It's so much gold in that. It's so much gold in that book.
Consciousness. Yes. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, then I guess that makes sense. Especially like I always understand like you don't own a person, you get to experience them, and it's okay to be in that experience and not hold that experience hostage. So I agree with her. I just didn't remember she said that. Okay.
Pusha T actually said, you shouldn't question if you ever stood the chance with him. The better question is, did you enjoy the dance with him? And it's like that's how I kind of like look at it, where it's like, sometimes we do look at it as a possessive thing, but in actuality, it's like, just enjoy the dance. And however long the dance lasts is how long the dance lasts. But that's why I'm so big on just being present in the moment and all that. Like, let's just enjoy the dance. We hope it lasts forever, and I'm doing everything on my end to ensure that it lasts forever. And I'm hoping you're doing the same thing on yours. But if for whatever reason it happens to end, both of us should be okay, and we shouldn't be devastated or demoralized or feel like neither one of us can go on and all that. It's, we shouldn't question whether it should stand the test of time. It's just, did I enjoy when I was with you? I did.
Yeah, the time is past. That is going to be the time. That's what it stood. So yep. All right, number two. What was your proudest moment from the past 12 months?
I would say probably getting this book out and really pushing it like I've been pushing it. I had to check my numbers the other day because I hadn't looked at, how many I had sold. I was just, just pushing and pushing and pushing. And I had definitely hit a milestone and didn't even realize it. So I was like, damn, like, so that's probably one of the most proudest moments. Me and my lady was just talking about it yesterday, that I need to spend more time celebrating. With me being in my D and me being in my C, it's like I'm constantly work, I'm constantly work, it always just on the task. I don't really spend time thinking about, how far I've come. So that was a big moment, actually putting this book out and being serious about it.
Yeah, that's good. I've been working through some things too, and it's like just because I didn't make it doesn't mean I failed. I can celebrate what I did so far, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that celebrating the small victories is what's gonna give you the momentum to have the big one.
Yep.
So continue to do that for sure.
Yep. All right. Number three. What do you most look forward to about getting old?
I would say like just, my genes continuing forward. So like kids, grandkids, great grandkids, um, that, and then also just the wisdom. I just feel like by that particular age, the internal strength is going to be just in ways that I just can't imagine. The wisdom that I have, the relationships, the experiences that I will have accumulated at that point in time. So I just, as long as my mind is really intact, uh, yeah, I'll just be looking forward to just again, just thinking back, like lived a great ass life.
Right. Same. I think for me it's the wisdom. I can't lie. I can't lie. I'm 36 now, and my bones be hurting me already. And I wish that what I knew now, I knew at 22, because I would be a millionaire by now, maybe billionaire, to be very honest. But I'm so glad for the wisdom that I have now, and I'm gonna make the most of it. And I can't wait to have more. It's a peace that you just don't have when you're. Some kids have it. Some people are old souls and they're good from young, like they know that they know and they cruising. But a lot of us, we don't have that. We be like, what is going on out here? I did not. my mama ain't tell me it was like this out here, you know. And I finished school or whatever. I got a job and I gotta pay bills and I gotta do. And then people are crazy out here. I didn't know people were crazy. Wait a minute, you know. I thought that was just my uncle or my auntie that was crazy. You realize that everybody else is crazy, you know, just like you, and figuring it out. So that wisdom and that peace, oh man, I'm looking forward to that. And just being closer to I don't know if that's morbid, but being closer to the creator. Being
Let me
closer
ask you a question.
getting back to the creator.
So if you can project yourself out into the future and being like, let's just say like 85, that's a good like number. And just imagine yourself being 85 and your life is, however you imagine your life to be at that point in time. And you had the ability to look back on yourself today, what would you tell yourself today from your 85-year-old self?
You on the right path. You are you lighting a fire on it. You making sure that others come behind you and they're able to find the life and get to the destination the way that you wanted to do for yourself.
Would it tell you anything that you should leave behind or anything that's not as important as maybe you thought it was? Anything you could let go?
Let go of having to be the one to I don't know what it's called. You know, when you go into the jungle and you have the leader and he's cutting down the space so the people behind him can go after him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let go of being like, well, this sucks. I don't know why I gotta hold this machete. Let go of that. Because you have the right, you in the right position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, that's what's up. That's powerful. Just that experience to just look back because they had did a study on people who had reached the age of 85, and they was basically doing a study on regrets, right? And they were trying to see like, all right, if you reach this age, looking back, what are your greatest regrets? And the funny thing is that the main thing that most of them focused on were not regretting anything that they actually did, but the thing that they regretted was the things that they failed to actually act on. So a lot of times putting ourselves in that mindset of, all right, I'm 85 years old, and then looking back to where you are now, it's like, if I continue how I am now, what will my life be when I'm 85? Get that picture, then create another picture of how you actually want your life to be at 85, and then reverse engineer back, to how we're doing today and just make the changements and make the adjustments. I remember when I did it, one of the big things, because again, I'm high D, so I'm always task oriented. One of the big things that popped up for me was, you don't want to be, successful and all alone. So it's like, okay, make time for families, so make time for my girl, make sure, that I'm just not always business, 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 business. Because again, you can, reach my business goals, and then, the family life sucks if I even, fortunate enough to have one. So it's like, you got to make that a priority as well. And so doing that exercise is what helped me come to that realization. So it's good to see that you do it as well. That's what's up.
Yeah, for sure. I like the fact that I feel like at the end of my life, people are going to call me a trailblazer and a person who opened a path for them to be able to, you know, uh, have the life that they long for, and know that I don't have to do a 10-year stint. Some guys go to jail and they come back and then now they talking to the younger kids and are scared straight or whatever they're doing, and they in there for 20 years. I'm helping you avoid these 20 years by telling you my story. I'm helping you avoid these 10 years of healing by giving you the story. So you understand that it's okay to start working on it now. You're not too this or too that to start working on it now. So that's
No, facts.
I'm excited for that day to come for people to be able to have that freedom that comes with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So when you dropping your book, what's the deadline?
The deadline, RJD is June 3rd. So this is June 4th. Mine is June 5th.
June 5th. Okay, we got it live. We got it recorded.
Y'all pray for me, y'all. Y'all pray.
Hey, step by step, one travels far. You know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So, you know, as long as you just keep stepping, you're gonna look back and be further than you realize.
Yes, yes. And I might need some I'm definitely gonna need some eyes, somebody who can help me know if I'm bugging out or not. Cause you know, with all of that high S, I'll be like, so when I wrote this line, did I say it right, or should I just erase it and start over? That's why I'm
Hey, but
mad.
again, everyone is useful. So yeah, I can, you know, definitely help you just get to the finish line and all that stuff like that. But that S and that C in you is for sure gonna help you avoid a lot of mistakes. So that you know, lean into your superpower and all that. So you can lean, you know, on me when you need somebody just to. All right, I feel like I done enough analyze. I need someone just to push me forward and all that stuff like that, and I'll for sure do that for you. I got you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining my podcast. This was really, 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 really good. And I want you to let people know where they can find you. And when
Uh,
they find you, what are they gonna find?
So I'm on IG at I am Chris McBride. That is I am Chris McBride, MCB as in boy, RID as in David, E. I'm on, you know, Facebook and Instagram as Christopher McBride. Fire content when it just comes to mental health, when it just comes to mind development, when it comes to, you know, self empowerment. My personal motto and the motto of my company, the McBride Institute, is we educate, we heal, and we empower. So we do that through many different avenues. You might find a little humor. You might find, you know, a lot of education. You'll find some inspiration. But again, it's with all the purpose of educating, healing, and empowering. You can check out my website, christophermcbride.org/healing in hindsight, the number one. And that's where you can get my book, Healing in Hindsight. It's a phenomenal read right now. Basically going for $14.97. It'll be out to you immediately. Definitely appreciating all the support. So yeah, that's how you can reach me.
Yes, I got mine. It's over there. I don't want to run away from the screen, but I got mine. And
Can I get a picture of you holding? You mind
yeah,
sending it to me?
I promise you, I am, because I did tell you I was going to do that. I am. I promise you.
Right on.
Looking real ratchet this weekend, and you know, can't do that. That's not gonna work out good. And I know he's gonna repost this picture. Come on, I got to have it together first, you know. For sure, I'm gonna send you the picture for sure.
Right on.
But thank you so much. And we're a community now. Okay, that's how that goes. So I'm sure my people, my inspirers, will see you again. And I hope your people, your tribe will see me wherever you are as well, because it's important. I was in closing, I was just thinking about community day today and how important it really, really is. It really, really pushes you forward. You can do as much work as you can, but even like you said earlier, once you attach yourself to people who you care about and who care about you, there are other things that you're going to realize about yourself that you get to work on. You get to work on. And so community is so important for that. And because I'm the most single person I know, I need this community. I like it. y'all, y'all look like you know, brothers to me, and sisters, and y'all are, you know, we're able to work together and really, really be there for each other. I have never come across a community like this before. So I'm really,
Yeah.
really glad about it. All right, y'all. So remember to aspire big so that you can inspire bigger. Be intentional about what you are doing with your life. And if you don't know what you're doing, find a way to understand what you need to do. Lean on a friend, lean on somebody who's done it before. Talk to your elders, talk to God, read, listen to podcasts, go get healing in hindsight, and just do what you can. Just do what you can. I'll have all of Chris links in my descriptions and everywhere that my podcast is played. So I'm sure you can always reach out to him and figure out a way that you can get some guidance and some help for the young millennial men and for the millennial women I'm here, or I'm always here. I have a women's group, and we work on closing the transformation you got from the woman you are to the woman you long to be. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next one, y'all. Later.
Peace.